Welcome to the module, Where Should I Go to School? What we're going to be discussing in this module is not actually telling you where you need to go to school, but the questions that you should ask yourself when you are thinking about attending a higher education institution, and what you should be looking at in the full spectrum of where should you end up going to school. This module is produced by CalTAP and presented by Swords to Plowshares. Let's get started. So, some smart tips for your transition to college. Before you do anything in regards to college, you should focus on making a financial plan. That's absolutely first and foremost. Many students are eager to start their education, and it's understandable. When we see education as a means of improving our quality of lives and advancing in whatever career force that we end up choosing, that's something you want to jump on immediately. But before you apply to the program of your choice, make sure you find out if your current income and the benefits will help you live comfortably. Now, that's important to think about because some institutions, even if it might seem like, yeah, you can cover the tuition of the area, maybe you can also get the textbooks and everything. What about the cost of living in that area? What about your livelihood? What about if you have a family? There's a lot of things that you have to take into account because higher education is costly in a lot of ways outside of just the institution itself. If you need to work a part-time job or a full-time job, there's a lot of different things that you have to analyze to find out if it's going to be appropriate, because halfway through your higher education career, you could find out, okay, this isn't financially feasible, or maybe financial emergencies have come up, or maybe you have to take a break, and then even trying to re-enter into the higher education institution might be too costly for you to be able to feasibly do that. And there's just a lot when we talk about finances that can put you in jeopardy when it comes to higher education. By having a financial plan, that can help you address anything that might come up during that time. It's important to find resources. When we talk about resources, we're talking about things like educational benefits that you're eligible for, and when the best time will be to utilize them. If we think about, for example, education benefits like the GI Bill, which is the most common one, and you may not have the GI Bill, but there's still other facets that apply to you, is, hey, maybe you don't need to use your immediate educational benefits to attend community college. And you can attend community college maybe 1 year, 2 years, maybe that's something totally feasible to do while you're working full-time or trying to understand what you want to do as part of your higher education career. And feasibly, you could not use any benefits. And especially in the state of California, there's a lot of other benefits out there that can make community college affordable, and you can save those benefits. So you could say, for example, the GI Bill benefit until you get to your traditional 4-year institution. So let's say you spent 2 years at community college, you didn't use a GI Bill for any of those, and then you go to a 4-year, but you only need to knock everything out in the 2 years that you're there, so you use the GI Bill for those 2 years, and then you transfer into a master's program, you've got another 2 years of the GI Bill in order to transfer onto those programs. So it would benefit you to find out all of the educational benefits that you're eligible for so you can create a plan on the best way to maximize them. That's also something that we can think about when we talk about vocational rehabilitation, which a lot of veterans are also available for. So, one of the first things you want to do is apply for financial aid and veteran-specific scholarships. When we talk about applying for financial aid, we're talking about going through the normal process. The quicker you get your FAFSA out of the way, the quicker you can get an image of what your financial aid plan is going to look like. And on top of that, there's a lot of veteran-specific scholarships. Now, you should apply for every scholarship that is available out there that you're eligible for, but you also want to look at veteran-specific scholarships. And this is also important, is that a lot of people don't necessarily plan far out ahead enough time I've been guilty of this myself, where it's like, all right, I've been accepted to an institution. I've got now 4 to 5 months of plan. A lot of scholarships are out farther than that. It would really benefit you to start planning and looking for scholarships even a year out in advance, or as far out as advance as possible. If you're even just remotely thinking about college, start looking for different scholarships that come up yearly. What are their deadlines? What are their dates? And keep notes of this so that way when you are actually considering going into college, you're already ahead of that. You're not going to put yourself in a position where you're like, oh, dang, if I'd known about this scholarship earlier, I could have gotten it, when you could prepare yourself that much farther ahead of time in anticipation of needing this financial aid in order to go to school. Additionally, it's also important of where do you want to live. Maybe there's a school that you might be interested in, but for some reason you could absolutely hate the area that school's in. We're talking about, maybe you're used to a certain type of city or rural life, and you go to live in a place that's the inverse of what you've enjoyed or what you're used to. And now all of a sudden you find yourself at an institution where you're going to be there for 4 years and you absolutely don't like the town. Maybe you don't like the community. Maybe you feel really out of place. And it's important to interrogate, where do you want to live? Where do you want to be? Is the place that you're going to school someplace that you're going to be able to enjoy living at during that time that you're in attendance of school? If, for example, the college you choose is outside of your hometown, take time to familiarize yourself with a few things. The area. If you can, you should most definitely, before you even accept the college, or if you're like, all right, I've got a few colleges that I've been accepted to, these are the ones that I really want to go to, do whatever you can to try and learn about the area. Go out, go walk, go see what the local community's like, what's going on in different stuff there, what are the restaurants like, what's the food like, what is that whole area like. Check out the cost of living as well. It's important because there might be times where you think you can afford something, or maybe you think with a part-time job, or maybe you'll have enough in financial aid to be able to afford the cost of living, but all of a sudden you get there and all the food is way more expensive than you anticipated, or you're not able to go do the normal college lifestyle things that people enjoy, just going out and partying with friends or anything, because it's so pricey and that's not something that you can even pull off weekly. Or maybe the cost of living is small enough to where you're living a pretty comfy college life compared to a lot of other college students. And then it's also important to check out what local resources are available. If, for example, you're using a lot of VA services, or you wanted to be in an area where resources are more accessible to you, that might be harder in some rural areas. Whereas in a city, it might be better, but then that also depends what part of the city are you living at. How's public transportation? Unfortunately, in California, we have a well-deserved reputation of public transportation isn't necessarily as good as other parts of the United States. And that might be difficult whether it comes to you accessing certain resources or even accessing your own school. You're going to want to choose programs with high quality faculty and successful alumni. Now, this is important to talk about. Laser focusing on high quality faculty is more than just about what you're learning in the classroom. And unfortunately, this isn't something that's really taught. But let's say you plan on going to grad school, let's say you plan on getting involved in research, or let's say you plan on getting really involved in your field into like a certain depth. Some academic programs, like more technical programs, this might not be as serious, but it's still important, is a relationship building with faculty that has experience and expertise and relationships and networks is really important, because these individuals are going to take care of you in your future career path. It makes your life substantially easier to have faculty who are really fantastic and who are not only great educators, but great connectors and great networkers. So that way they can help plug you into additional programs or additional scholarships or internships or fellowships or amazing grad programs. I think one of the big things that I've seen about a lot of people that have come out of four-year institutions or come out of community college is they didn't build up the proper relationships with their faculty. Now they've been out for about 3 or 4 years and they're wanting to go back into grad school. And one of the biggest concerns is I don't know what teacher I could contact to try and get even a letter of recommendation. I've learned that fortunately a lot of professors are super open to, hey, you can contact them and they can work up a letter of recommendation. But it's a lot better if you already build that relationship and you have that connection where you're like, I used to talk to that professor all the time. You know, we had a really good professor-student relationship going on. They were really informative in my years, and I think that this is a person I can reach out to in my graduate journey or professional journey. The program that you choose will have an impact on your outcomes post-graduation. It's probably the most important thing about school is you can go to a lot of different schools that have a lot of different programs that you might be interested in, but there are some schools who do the program you're interested in better than others. It's unfortunate in some senses because sometimes we might go to a school or a particular program because of the ease and accessibility, but unfortunately that doesn't translate into outcomes post-graduation. And there are certain schools that really do that. And it's on a part of you to do that research and conduct that of, hey, this is a good school, particularly for this program. And if I go to that program and knock it out at this school, that's going to make my life easier whether I end up wanting to go into grad school or wanting to go into a professional career. Your school choice is very important. Your program choice is very important. And a lot of that impacts what you do. If you're at a school that's so-so and you're at a program that isn't necessarily well known and you do really well in that program on top of maybe internships or whatever else, that still might not have as significant of an impact as getting into a school and program that is well known and that has a strong foundation from students to launch out of. Questions to ask of each school you consider. What's the total cost? A lot of the times when we think of the total cost, we have to look at what is the full tuition that you're paying for. What's your textbooks? Because a lot of people, that varies, especially by program or department. For some, you might be only spending a few $100 in an academic year. For others, you could be spending over $1,000 easily. That coupled with what does rent look like during that time period, food, cost of living, all of those things are significant, especially if we think about most of these times you're going to need laptops. What happens if your laptop needs repairs or breaks halfway through the school year? So when you're looking at an institution to attend, ask that institution, toss that question, what is the total cost? Fortunately, this is usually one of the things that's more accessible. Ask yourself how you're going to pay for it. Do you have the GI Bill? Are you going to be taking out student loans for this? Do you have scholarships that are already in the bag? Are there grants that you can factor in? Do you have any honor societies that are assisting you with that? Are you able to use Evoke Rehab for that? Will you be able to attend if one form of payment falls under? So for example, maybe you might be getting certain benefits, but those questions are in the air. Are you still willing to take out student loans to pay for it, even if those benefits fall through? These are questions you need to ask yourself and things that you need to have answers for. Is community college an easier path to achieve general education credits prior to transferring? Personally, I'm always going to be a hardcore voucher for community colleges. A lot of veterans that I know that have gone through community college and have ended up into a bachelor's degree and ended up into graduate programs, have nothing but positive to say about community college, and I'm definitely one of them. I think there's definitely a difference in quality between community colleges, and not every community college is the same, and community colleges do have programs that they also specialize in. But what's fantastic about community college is it gives you time to transfer into the civilian world. It gives you time to learn about different fields and what you might be interested in. It allows you opportunities to get involved in extracurriculars, and these extracurriculars could provide scholarships for you in the future. So for a whole host of different reasons, I think community college is an amazing way for people to approach four-year institutions, especially if they might be anxious about it or unsure about it. Community college can help prepare you for that. They can help work with different remedial stuff. I was incredibly terrible with math in high school. Community college definitely helped me out with math, so I wasn't wasting thousands of dollars on math by the time I actually got into a four-year institution. So again, I'm always going to push for it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's something that everybody should look into and check out. And not just that, but then how community colleges work within California is also fantastically better than a lot of other states. We explained that in another module. Can I transfer credit I earn at this school to other schools? This is unfortunately a very real situation. I know veterans who have gone to certain schools, certain either online or private schools, while they were in the service in order to get, maybe a degree or just knock out some classes before they got into the civilian world. And upon doing that, found out that virtually none of those credits applied in the civilian world to community college or to public institutions or even to other private schools, which meant that the only options they had were to essentially continue in that original private school that they were at, private college that they were at, or completely restart. And a lot of them I know did restart and basically had to start from scratch at community college. And that is a big one. That is a very significant one, is always look for transfer credits, because you don't know what might happen in the course of your academic career that might cause you to transfer. Either that's a natural part of community college and transferring into a four-year, or maybe you end up deciding that you're going to transfer out of state because there's a school that you see elsewhere that you think is fantastic. It's important to kind of dig in and find out how transferable are the credits that you're earning, just because it's going to make your life easier in the long run. Fortunately, I had a bunch of credits that were mostly transferable and very few that weren't, compared to other veterans who weren't able to transfer a lot of their credits. It's also important to ask how many classes, units are required for the degree or certificate. You need to be able to do this to give yourself a realistic idea of what does your timeline look like in higher education. This is also important because your academic career is not static. Your academic career isn't something that is just a one-way street. 2 years in, you could find out, hey, you don't want the degree that you're pursuing, or you want to transfer into another degree field, and that could set you back by a semester or 2 semesters. Same thing when it comes to maybe picking up a minor to your degree or even dropping a minor to your degree. By having an idea of how many classes and units are required for the degree or certificate, you can get a pretty set view on how long it should feasibly take you. It can also function in the same sense of maybe you have to take a reduced amount one semester. What amount would it take to make up for it? Maybe you could take more classes in another semester. This is just one of the better ways to get a full spectrum of what your academic life is going to be like at that particular college. It's also important to ask what kind of careers will be available to you with this kind of degree or certificate. We have to keep in mind some degrees and certificates, unfortunately, are getting phased out. And you have to ask yourself, how versatile is the degree program or certificate program that you're looking into? It's important at the same time to try and balance this out of, hey, this is something that I'm passionate about and interested in. What kind of careers are feasible to me? under that blanket of that field that I'm passionate about. There are multiple degrees that could exist within the same field, but some are going to provide more of a technical or sound basis or a higher viability for being pulled into careers within that field than maybe other degrees or certificates within that field. It's also important to ask what percentage of students graduate. If you're looking at an institution and they do not have a high rate of student graduation, that might be a red flag. Why is that the case? Why are the majority of students not graduating, or why is the percentage lower than others? And that's something that you can search around for. You can look up on search engines, maybe kind of question into it, because these are things that should definitely be a concern to you if you're looking into a particular school. It's also important to think about what kind of debt do recent graduates have. Are you going to come out of this fantastic program with 6-digit debt? Does that sound feasible to you, especially considering what salary you might be getting in your particular career? And also ask yourself, why do they have this debt? Is there a lack of financial aid resources? Is there a lack of outside resources that are being pulled into it? Just keep digging and digging deeper when it comes to these kind of things until you have answers that you personally feel comfortable with. Then also check is there pressure from the school to enroll. I know there was a few private universities that I was looking at. I consistently get phone calls with them about the same time every single year, trying to pressure me to enroll, to talk to them about a whole host of other things. And it's like, hey, if I haven't talked to you in about 3 years, there might be a reason why I haven't talked to you in about 3 years. And why are they seeking that kind of pressure in order to enroll you? It should not feel like you're getting hassled by debt collectors in order to attend a particular school. Another important one is, can you get credit for your military training? This was one of the best things that happened to me in community college. I didn't know how many credits I was going to be getting. And when I transferred my military transcript over to the community college, I saw it was about worth a semester's worth of credits. So here I am, my first year into community college, and I'm excitedly, oh wow, it's almost like I already knocked out a semester of school already. I'm ahead. And that was great for kind of my energy, for me kind of jumping into community college, and it made me feel more invested. Like I had already done the work and I was already a foot ahead of where I thought I would be. And then that was nice because that gave me enough of an edge to graduate exactly at the 4-year mark. So that's an important thing to think about, an important thing to look into when you are starting into school. Another one is the school committed to helping veterans? Some schools will post that they're veteran friendly, but they don't post how, they don't post what they do uniquely. And it's really telling if you go to a school where, you know, they'll handle your GI Bill paperwork and everything, but that's about it, and they aren't really well versed in veterans resources or their own veteran community. That stands out compared to schools that have a dedicated office, a dedicated staff, an actual veteran community, and they're able to address far more questions and give you far more resources than any other school staff. And it's a lot more convenient than just simply having to go and reach out to the VA to try and address or get answers for certain issues, or even searching on the internet. For more information, visit the Federal Trade Commission webpage on choosing a college. As for next steps, when you've gathered the information on prospective schools and identified a program you'd like to pursue, figure out what education benefits you're eligible for. You're also going to want to check out Module 2. We're going to go into California Community Colleges, CSU and UC system, locations and programs specifically. Also jump on Module 3 so we can talk more about paying for school. And then we're going to recommend seeing Core Pathway Module 4 on focusing on filing a claim for VA benefits. We'd like to thank you for your attendance. Hopefully this has been beneficial for you, and good luck on your journey.